And Village Board, you are live.
Good morning, everybody. Today is April 21st, 2023. Welcome to East Hampton Village Board meeting. If I could ask everyone to stand for a pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks, everybody. So I just wanted to have a brief, before we get into the meeting, I just wanted to let everybody know why we had to relocate, and we certainly apologize for that. But is our village engineer here? No? How about our building inspector? Could you just brief everybody on what happened yesterday?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. So over at 1 Cedar Street, we had a situation. What's a potential situation? It was noted during a routine inspection, I'll say. Structural members are compromised somewhat. There's a heavy timber truss system, and the way that it was bolted together is a failure of a connection is basically. And there's out of an abundance of caution, we don't feel that the room should be used. We have engineers coming already on board, and we have a fix in sight. So that's
Any idea, like, how long we're going to be out?
I believe we're going to meet with a New York City engineer on Monday. I wouldn't think it would be, I don't know what the schedule will be. I would think a matter of weeks, I would think.
Okay.
I would hope. So, yeah.
Great.
Just hope for the best.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our first presentation will be Hugh King.
Thank you for inviting all these people to hear me speak. Okay, the Osbornes are here. Mr.
good.
Mayor. Okay.
Good.
Today we're going to honor Nelson Osborne. Nelson Osborne served as the president of the village, as the office was called then, for 3 one-year terms. At that time, the office of mayor or president was for 1 year. During his term of office, the village Memorial Green and Hook Mill were acquired by the village. The village election date was changed from March to June to allow more participation from summer residents. The village board increased to 4 members to allow 1 member of the summer colony to serve on the board. Cars were parked diagonally on Main Street. We don't want that again. All right. The first village zoning laws were passed. He also served as East Hampton Town Supervisor, one of only 3 men to do that. Jonathan Baker, Ronald Rio, and Nelson Osborne were the only men who have served both as the leader of the village and the leader of the town. He served as the 2nd commander of the American Legion post, and here to me is his most lasting legacy. Along with Mrs. Frances Newton and Mary Hamlin, he put a hold on the purchase of Home Sweet Home in 1927 until the village taxpayers could vote to purchase the property, which they did in October of 1927. So that's Nelson Osborne, and I believe you have a proclamation.
We do. Are the family here?
Where are they? They came in. Bob, Tom, come on up. Right?
Yes.
I'll get out of the way. I'm out of here.
Where do we kneel?
Okay. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of East Hampton would like to recognize Nelson Osborne for his honorable service to the Village of East Hampton as mayor from 1922 to 1925. Whereas Nelson Osborne served as the second East Hampton Village President for 3 one-year terms. He also served as East Hampton Town Supervisor, one of only 3 men to do so. Whereas the historic Hook Mill and the Village Memorial Green were purchased during his tenure. Whereas Nelson Osborne and 2 others purchased Home Sweet Home and held it until the village taxpayers voted to purchase the home in 1927. Now therefore I, Jerry Larson, Mayor of the Village of East Hampton, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the residents of the Incorporated Village of East Hampton, express our deepest gratitude to Nelson Osborne for his dedication to historic preservation, and do hereby proclaim that Dayton Lane shall bear the honorary name Nelson Osborne.
So, Hugh, how many mayors are left now? Just one left, right? We've had 12 mayors in the history of the village. So we've named 11 streets now, or co-named 11 streets with the name of the mayor who lived on that street at the time of service. So thank you very much for attending, and it's a great honor to have that name posted on the corner of Dayton and Main Street now. So thank you. Oh, village engineer? Would you mind just updating?
Mr. Mayor, can I make a remark or two?
Oh, absolutely, Bob, please.
Just anecdotally. It's interesting, when Dayton Lane was put in by Mr. Morford, I think it was, owned the property at the time, he employed what they used to call a spite strip. It went up the northeasterly side of Dayton Lane, a 1-foot strip that was actually, so that Pop's property wouldn't front on Dayton Lane. It ran up to the first lot, which has the sort of V-shaped house on it that I think Paul Abbott still owns. And somehow or other, that strip got attached to the deed for the next lot up, which Pop acquired, and therefore acquired the 1-foot strip. Anyway, I thought it was interesting in looking back at the minutes that the vote on the zoning ordinance was 2-1. It wasn't unanimous, which means there must have been a little friction about that at the time. They bought that Hook Mill, parcel from Mr. Dominy for $9,750. And it had, what, half a dozen stores on it?
Yeah.
Now, if they'd had the philosophy of future boards, they would have kept renting those stores out, and the taxes would have been much less, right? But they didn't, fortunately. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much. Our village engineer is here now. Maybe you could just give us a little update. Tom gave us a little bit of detail, but maybe you can add to it.
Yeah, on Monday, I met with Tom and other members, other village officials, and we observed the attic section of the MS building. The situation there is that within the trusses, there's two trusses in which the connections have failed. Relatively looking at it, and based on the cracking of some of the timbers in there, I don't think it's been something that's been in existence for a very long time, but I would say maybe a couple of months. We brought in a structural engineer, Steve Maresca from Hampton Bays, to look at that with us yesterday, and said this appears to be a little bit more complicated than what he would be accustomed to doing. We've reached out to a firm in Manhattan, Craft Engineering. Nathaniel Stanton is the principal there. We have sent the plans to him, and I would expect to have a meeting scheduled with him early next week, Monday, Tuesday. My recommendation to the board is that we not use the space until we bring him in, but what we are looking at is probably some type of a temporary shoring, coming up with a plan to fix the trusses, and then actually doing the improvements.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. All right, next up is Chief Tracy. Just give us a little detail why we're here today.
Good morning and thank you. Today I have the pleasure of bringing before you several officers from the department, all within the future command staff. Very proud of them, and I'm going to say something very general but common sense. We were able to hire and promote a number of people in the last few years. The one common denominator I will tell you that they all enjoy is knowledge of the municipality, and they're known among you. We don't have anybody here from Queens or Nassau or any place else. We're very fortunate. All local people that we've hired in the last few years, and now same thing with our promotions. Common sense, a sense of humor. They care for the community. They like their jobs, and they do it well. So they come to work with a smile on their face. And those things that I've just mentioned, that's the baseline for cops, in my opinion. That's the baseline for who needs to be hired in the future, what your local police department needs to look like, and it's just that. It's just that simple. Nothing more. And we build on that. They learn as they go, but their care for the community and their care for each other and their perspective, they get it. These guys get it. And we're lucky to have them. You're all lucky to have them. So I thank them all. Yep.
I'm going to move. Jason?
If you guys could just stand in the middle, move the podium out of the way for the camera.
Our first officer to be promoted, Jeff Erickson, to the rank of captain. Jack Bartleby to the rank of lieutenant. Matthew Kachanas to the rank of sergeant. And Wayne Gauger to the rank of sergeant.
Congratulations to each officer. You'll notice next to the captain there's someone who looks very similar. That's his brother, who's a county police officer. Well done, thank you. All right, next up will be Jerry Terza.
All right. There's a procession.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, Mr. Balladron, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to, again, congratulate the officers. I've worked with them for many, many years. I wish them the best of luck. So I'm here this morning on behalf of Chief Forrester and the East Hampton Fire Department to give the board a report on the fire apparatus replacement project that we started. As the good professor would have told you, I came before the board last April for my last board meeting via Zoom as the chief of the fire department. And we're here 1 year later to tell you the progress that we've made. And there's really no other word to describe it other than progress. A little bit of a background on the project is that fire apparatus, the fire trucks, should be replaced at regular intervals. We've always staggered the purchases. They are very large purchases, and they're getting even larger. And over the years, the plan that we had in place didn't really come through for a number of different reasons. Fall of 2020, when this administration came in, I was asked a very basic question: what do you need? And the answer was a little bit complicated, and it was a pretty daunting answer. I asked the mayor to come with me one day. I drove him to all 3 of our firehouses, showed him every piece of equipment, and I gave him a no-nonsense professional assessment of where the fire department was at that time, where we needed to be, and ideas on what we needed to do. I know it was certainly an eye-opener for the mayor. He had me take Mr. Balladron and former trustee Graham on a very similar tour, and I know that it was certainly an eye-opener for them. We collectively sat down and said, okay, how do we make this work? We had a lot of deliberations, a lot of discussions, a lot of good, productive, responsible dialogue back and forth. We were faced with a very daunting task. Equipment was starting to fail at regular intervals. We were coming out of the COVID era of delays with production and whatnot, uncertain financial future. But we came up with a very sound plan, a very bold plan. And bold plans often require courage of their convictions and calculations to make them happen. And we did just that. We replaced 5 major pieces of apparatus. At the time, the price tag was well over $4 million, almost to the tune of $5 million. We placed the order in the end of September 2021, and I had the pleasure and good fortune to go out to Pierce Manufacturing Corporation out in Wisconsin, where our trucks are being made, about 3 weeks ago, to do the final inspection on 3 of them: hose truck number 3, engine number 5, and heavy rescue number 7. Those trucks were done. Those trucks have been delivered to our vendor. They've come out for the members to take a look at. They are in the process right now of being outfitted with our equipment. Tower ladder number 1 is in the production line out in Wisconsin. I believe they finished painting it last week, and they're starting to work on it. We expect to see that sometime early to mid-summer. So we're kind of anticipating that. Our brush truck is in production as well at our vendor, Firematic Supply, up in Shirley, New York. We expect to see that also at some point mid-summer. So we've got a lot of moving pieces. Being out in Wisconsin with the owner of our vendor, he said something that was probably the most profound thing, and I relayed this to Mr. Balladron right away. By making the purchase when we did, by taking that bold move, we've saved the taxpayers almost $2 million by doing it when we did. We also received additional savings by pre-purchasing some of the equipment on the trucks. So we took that step. I know everybody was kind of cringing at the time when we did it because it was unheard of. Probably the boldest single public safety maneuver by a village or even a small municipality anywhere in the county. The plan that we used, the approach that we used, was approached by another small village on the east end of the island shortly after we went through with this. They modeled a purchase on a lot smaller scale, but they took what we had done and they applied it. So we took a calculated risk. I asked you to trust me, and I think the proof is in the pudding. So we should have some new trucks rolling down the streets of Main Street sometime before Memorial Day, hopefully.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If we could now do roll call.
Okay. Mayor Jerry Larson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Chris Minardi has an excused absence. Trustee Sandra Melendez.
Here.
Trustee Carrie Doyle.
Here.
Trustee Sarah Amadin.
Here.
Administrator Marcos Balladron.
Here.
Village Attorney Lisa Perillo.
Here.
All right, great. So we're now entering into our public hearings. The first hearing will be read in a second, but we are going to hold a 3-minute per person comments. You only speak once on a subject. The last hearing we had, we allowed a lot of leeway. That's normally not what we do. And we listened to what the Ambulance Association had to say. We've tweaked the law, and that's what we're presenting today. So if you could be kind enough to be polite to each other when you're speaking, and please hold your comments to 3 minutes per subject. Thank you very much. And if we could read the public hearing?
Introductory number 3, 2023, a proposed local law amending Village of East Hampton Code by adding Chapter 38, establishing a Department of Emergency Medical Service, EMS, as a department of village government.
All right, do we have anyone who would like to speak from the public? Please step up. Good morning. If you could just, I know who you are, but if you could just state your name for the record.
Sure. Amanda Thompson. So before I speak, I'd like to submit 319 letters in support of the Village Ambulance Association and in opposition of the proposed legislation to create a new department. So I don't know who I give that to.
Okay, in case you didn't hear what Amanda said, she said there was one duplicate signature in the pile, so.
Well, not duplicate, a husband and wife signed one.
Okay,
So that's 2 signatures.
okay, great. Thank you.
So, I grew up in East Hampton, and I've been a volunteer with the Ambulance Association for a little over a year. In that time, I've run about 170 calls. I've put my best effort forward to become as useful as possible. So I was a driver by July, I believe, and I actually just passed my EMT exam last Saturday. So, I do look forward to serving, you know, as an EMT, not just a driver. But I'd like to point out that this time last year, we had about 45 members, and now we're down to, what, 25? And I do believe that is directly related to this board and the way that, you know, this whole transition has been handled. I think it could have been handled a lot better. I have questions on your recruitment. You say that in your paper ad yesterday that you'd like to recruit to get us back to what that number was. And my concern is for this summer, I mean, how are you going to get everybody up to speed? I mean, I got my pager on March 6th last year, and I just passed my EMT exam. Even if I took a hybrid course, I don't think I would have been an EMT by, you know, until like September last year. Also with the driving, I mean, I really put a lot of effort in to become a driver as quickly as possible because that's what was needed. And that still took me about 4 months. So I just want to make sure that, you know, everybody's going to be held to the same standard, which I think is necessary for the safety of everybody who's in the ambulance, the patient, the EMTs, and the public. I'm also wondering how you're going to pay for that. I wonder what the effect will be on the taxes for the village and the town. And I'd also like to say that I think most of us have worked very well with the paid people. I don't have any problems with them. I'd also like to know how many shifts you see
Your
meeting.
three is up.
I
Amanda.
have,
If
okay.
you could wrap it up.
Sure. I wonder how many people you're going to have to pay and, you know, where that money is going to come from, basically.
Right. Thank you for your comments. Teresa?
I'm not here to talk. I'm an artist and a retired art teacher, and I've taken part of your ad in the Star, and I've expressed as an artist how sad our group is, and so therefore I don't want to speak per se, but let you know
Thank you, Teresa.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Doreen Caranto, and I'm a registered nurse, a licensed clinical social worker, was involved in EMS from the beginning in the 1970s in Connecticut, where I grew up. For the last 25 years, I've been here, and most recently involved with the ambulance as their chaplain, which I am very proud of. But there are a couple of things I'd like to comment on. One is it felt like you, Mayor Larson, took a sledgehammer to the solid and long-standing Volunteer Ambulance Association. It wasn't broken until you got involved. Now you're building a new department on a very unstable foundation, just as we enter the busiest time of year for out here in the village and the town. You called the volunteers who left disgruntled, but my word is disrespected. These men and women who left put in 10, 20, 30 years as volunteers. They are the ones who got us through the COVID time. They had to come in, don all that personal equipment, go and do the call at the risk of their own lives when we didn't even know what was going on, and then come back and decontaminate every piece of equipment in that ambulance. It wasn't like we hired people to do that dirty job. They did it themselves for all the time it took. Please stop comparing apples to oranges. Example, mutual aid last summer, okay, when we had to call down to the beach where I was sitting just a few feet from you and your wife, and we had a paramedic there, an EMT there, I was there who comforted the wife, and we had to wait for Sag Harbor or Spring, someone to send an ambulance. Why? Not because we did not have volunteers, because we did not have any more ambulances. We had 2 of them out for repair, which was no responsibility of the Corps. It was the responsibility of the village. And today's agenda shows us you're losing 2 paramedics already before the beginning of summer. 2 paid paramedics, which are hard to find. Why are they leaving? That has nothing to do with the volunteers. If the big disaster happens, like a train derailment that we've seen all over the US lately, those paid EMTs and paramedics do not live, not like the chief of the police department said, they don't live locally. They live in Nassau, they live up island in Suffolk. They will not get here in time. It will be the volunteers that will be the ones we need to count on, not the paid supplements. I ask you to consider all of this when you take your vote today. Thank you, and God bless our volunteers.
Thank you.
Hello, I have some letters that are signed by community members, also stating how they feel about the change. My name is Sandra Vorpal. I'm an exempt member of the East Hampton Village Ambulance Association, and very proud that I was able to serve them for 25 years. My biggest The only thing I really want to say is the way this was done is heartbreaking. That's what it is. It's heartbreaking. Because if the Corps had been approached back in June, July, and August when all of this started, and we sat down and discussed your dreams for what you wanted, I believe a solution could have been made. But instead, from June to last month, the members were lied to. They were told there was nothing going on. They were told there were no changes. They were told by 2 people who were elected, but not an election, but were elected as our leaders. They were told by them there was nothing going on. Even last month, after last month's meeting, that we all knew there was a change coming, our leaders still said to their members, I have no idea what's going on. I mean, how do you lead an association? How do you lead people? How do you have their confidence? But anyway, I know the deal is done. I know what is said is going to be done. But what I feel most hurt about is that broken heart that I have I had went exempt, but I had the broken heart that people left because they felt that they were no longer treated like a local, like a person in a community or on an association. They were looked at and told, I don't have to tell you what's going on. When I get ready, I'll let you know, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. And that's the way they felt. And that handful of disgruntled people you keep calling are people that put in 35, 36, 40 years of hard service and ran an organization for 45 plus years. That's the part we don't get. The organization was run. If you wanted to tweak it and make it a little different, what was wrong with coming to the members and saying, let's do this. Let's figure out a way. We had an issue over the summer. You said to our chiefs, you know, the times that we're getting to calls between 6 and 8 every day is not acceptable. They came to the Corps and they asked the Corps, what can we do to fix this? Every person in that room signed up to put in time to make those calls. Did we get a pat on the back from the village? No. Did we get a pat on the back saying, you did it, you came in and you did it? Why couldn't you come and ask us about this change? Just an answer would be why. But obviously we don't get an answer. And the calls here, I had to make one comment about the article in the paper when it said that there was 122 mutual aid calls in the year 2021. We had through the summer, we had 2 full ambulances down, and it was just after COVID, or just into COVID, that you couldn't get anything fixed right away. They didn't have any parts, they didn't have what needed to be, and we only had 1 ambulance running. And that's why the mutual aids were done, not to make it sound like there was nobody or anybody available to make calls. That's the only thing I don't like. Things are put out that make your people who've served for 35, 40 years, that they didn't do anything. You know, there's a little statement in here, you were great, you know, you were a great organization. That could have been said 6 months ago to our faces and saying, let's fix it, let's make it better. And it wasn't. I know my 3 minutes are up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Hi, I'm Carmen Kenrick. I actually happen to live in Massachusetts, but grew up out here. And I'm very thankful for Mae Bushman and Mr. Dodge, because I started as a volunteer when I was in high school. And so back in the day, the ambulance actually generated community to give back. And so I stand here before you, thankful that I had the opportunity to come here and voice my opinion. Because of Mr. Dodge and Mrs. Bushman, I ended up going the career of healthcare. And it is sad to stand here and hear community members who have given their souls, their time, their commitment. As I was an ambulance driver, a former EMT, and then decided to be a physician assistant, and now nationally I recruit for physicians, advanced practitioners throughout the United States. I can sit here and understand that in healthcare, we always need change. Without change, we don't have innovation. But as leaders, you need to think about, did you build awareness? Did you make sure when you were building change that you had the resources, that you had the knowledge on why you were making the change? And it's sad to hear that the commitment from your taxpayer individuals who gave so much of their time. I remember having the green light as a high school student. I'd come back from college and I would volunteer. And it's sad to see that as leaders, you didn't come together to make a change, an innovative change. But I can sit here and say that in Massachusetts, we do pay our EMTs. And unfortunately, what's lost is that person. Like, I remember being on call, and when I would report to those calls, people would say, oh, you're Carmen. Or if my parents who used to be sick and Mrs. Medler would come or Mr. Dodge would come, it was a familiar face. It wasn't someone from out of this region. So as you together, the leadership, think about change, I ask you to think about, is it too late to change? Is it too late to be innovative? No, but it's how you implement change. So please, as leaders, think about your local individuals. How are you going to be innovative? Change is not bad, but it's how you do it. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much. Tiger?
Good afternoon. I'm Tiger Graham. I said most of my piece at the last meeting, so I'm not going to take anywhere near 3 minutes. I just want you all to please commit to approving the elections of the volunteers. So when they elect their people, I would like the board to commit to approving those people and making that happen. Okay?
Thank you, Tiger.
Thank you.
Hey everybody. Hi, Bess Rattray. I have 5 years as an EMT with the East Hampton Village Ambulance Association. Before that, I was in the fire service in Canada. I was the first female chief of a pumper truck in rural Nova Scotia. I'm very proud of my volunteer service, and what I wanted to say to the board, but also to the audience watching on LTV, is that volunteer service is the best bargain you could ever have. I feel like there's a sense in certain quarters that volunteer service is subpar or is second class in some way, and nothing could be farther from the truth. In terms of what Carmen was speaking of, patient care, it's actually a positive good to have somebody there who helps lower your blood pressure, who cares more, who when they walk in the door you feel safe with. That is actually about patient care. Also, you know, I think that the townspeople who are watching this, who don't live in the village, may not be aware of how this might impact them. Volunteers ran 1,400 calls last year. Volunteers did that. On a very small fraction of them, they were run by the professionals, but working together with our paramedics, who we all love, you have the perfect blend. It's the perfect weaving of the dedication of the volunteer and the hours, the manpower hours that you're not going to get from paid people, together with like the work of a paid paramedic who has expertise. But I wanted to say again, I said it last time, about 1,000 of our calls last year were in the township, in the fire protection districts. If you live in Northwest Woods, if you live north of the village, if you live in Wainscott, this is going to have a profound impact on your ambulance care. And volunteers were the best bargain you ever got. Everybody has to have an eye on the bottom line. It's not going to be cheap to alienate the volunteers. And that's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bess. Is there anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jamie Wallace. I live in the village, and I was here at the last meeting, and I read your ad in the Star, and I guess my question is, you know, we're coming into the summer season, and you said you're trying to recruit more volunteers to replace, it says here, a former speaker said 25 people now instead of 45 a year ago. That's 20 people. So how are you going to replace them by the start of the season, which is coming down the pike in a couple of weeks? So if you can't replace them, and one of the other people who spoke said it took, you know, many months to be trained. So even if you get a volunteer to say, okay, I'm signing up, and you get 10 new volunteers, they won't be trained in time for this summer. So what are we supposed to do for this summer when we have tons of people coming into town who are going to get in accidents or have heart attacks or whatever and need the care? The other thing that, I mean, how many people, I'd like to know, do you have signed up right now that are going to start to replace some of those people? Because you mentioned you're recruiting. And the other thing is you've allocated $125,000 to hiring people, but that's going to be a drop in the bucket if you don't replace all those volunteers. That's just the beginning, a small inkling of what it's going to cost. So this is all going to put a lot of pressure on the village when they take over, as well as, you know, those of us who are here, and I've had to take the ambulance a couple of times, and it's very nice, for example, to go into the library and say hello to Sheila and know she was in the ambulance when I was taken a couple of months ago. You know, that's community, and I applaud that, and I hope that we can get more volunteers, and maybe you can talk to some of the ones who've resigned. I know some of them have gone to other places like Springs or Sag Harbor, but maybe some of them are waiting to see if there's any kind of togetherness that you could talk about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else before we close the hearing?
Thank you for the time. I'm David Gans, a village resident of 30-some odd years. First, I want to commend the emergency services team. Back in January, I had a little situation, and those guys were there in 10 minutes. I was in Southampton Hospital.
I don't know. I can't hear you, David, if you could
Can't
speak
hear
up.
me? Okay, so I was in Southampton Hospital. Then I was in Stony Brook, and then I was in New York Presbyterian. After 3.5 months, I'm back. I think what you're doing is wrong. Wrong for a number of reasons. You want change for the sake of change. Change to be under Jerry Larson's finger. That's what you want. You've done it with the sea camps in Maine Beach. You're doing it with Herrick Park. It seems like you're building your little dynasty. Well, this dynasty is going to collapse, hopefully, in the next 2 or 3 years. You just need to understand, these people bust their ass. And what's interesting is, people come up here, they ask you questions, and you don't open your mouth. So what's the point of even talking? You're right, because you've already made up your mind. You've already made up your mind.
This is called public comment, David. If you don't follow that, I don't know what else to tell you.
I know, Jerry. I've been in government for 14 years.
And like I said,
I know.
just so you are aware, you weren't here at the last meeting or the meeting before that or the meeting before that, but at the last meeting, we opened it up and we spent hours going over this.
Well,
if you watch it on LTV, maybe you can get up to speed.
I will, but I'll be happy
Please finish up your comments. I'll give you a little extra time because I interrupted you.
All right, well, I mean, it's like, I just think if you look at the labor and overhead, these people are qualified. I don't know why you want to get rid of them. You want to bring in people from outside. I noticed that they want to appoint a new medical director. He has no emergency medicine experience at all. He's an internist. At least get qualified people. That's all I have to say.
Hello, my name is Pablo Betancourt. At the last meeting, I was still a member of the East Hampton Ambulance, but after I went to our meeting in the ambulance, I decided to just give up. There were some members who asked questions to our chief, and she didn't have any answers to them. And she's been on with you since August. And she didn't know anything. She didn't know how to answer a question to us. I'm a driver, and without a leader, I don't know where to go. So I decided to leave. That's all I have to say. I was a member for 12 years, over 12 years, and that's all I can give. Without a leadership, I can't. Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. Anyone else from the public?
Good morning. I'm Ken Brown. I've been a village resident for my entire life. I've worked for the Village Police Department for 35 years, retired. I'm a 60-year active member of the East Hampton Fire Department. I have been to a lot of ambulance calls in both wearing a police officer or as a firefighter. And when the volunteer members, as we know, Sandy and the rest of them, show up on the scene and they know the victims or the patients and the patients know them, it's a big deal. It helps settle them down. It makes the situation a lot better, regardless of what the problem is. I've been going to Florida now for a number of years, very fortunate, and I've watched the paid Collier County ambulance. I've been in a couple of places where they've been. They are cold. They don't know as much as a lot of these volunteers that put in more hours training than they do actually going to the calls. And I think what's happened to the Ambulance Association in East Hampton is a disgrace, and that they should be put back the way they were. And if you feel that they need more supervision, do it correctly. Don't do it just, we're going to do this is the way it is. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Is there anyone else from the public?
Right there, there's one.
Dave?
Good afternoon. Everybody hear me? All right, I can't hear anybody. I'm hard of hearing. I have a war injury. But I just want to say that in my military career, if what happened to the Ambulance Association lately had happened to me in Vietnam, I wouldn't be here today. Don't try to fix something that's not broken. Leave the Ambulance Association alone. These people are dedicated to the people of this community and to the town. No, leave hands off. Little history. I've been in the fire department 57 years, past chief, past village board member for 16 years. I know what the Ambulance Association does. I know practically everybody on the association. I even went to school with some of them. But these people are so dedicated to the village and to the village residents. Just don't mess with them. If this had happened, like I said, to me in Vietnam, I wouldn't be here today. You people have to communicate with these people. You just can't make decisions without their input. And if we didn't have the communications in Vietnam with our troops, the troops would never come home. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. All right, is there anyone else? All right, anybody from the board?
Yes. Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, everybody, for coming. And so I want to start by myself. I have tremendous amount of gratitude for our volunteer ambulance. I have, worked with you a little bit now, but, Trustee Amidon and I just came on, and we're trying to play a little bit of catch up and trying to get to know you and get to know the chiefs and communicate with you. And I can say it's been interesting to meet everybody, and now as this situation goes on, people have said to me, I don't get it. Why are people an ambulance? Why do they work in the ambulance? Why do they volunteer? And I think that you either are that type of person or you aren't. And we've been so fortunate that we have incredible people in this community who have chosen to volunteer. And I do think what Doreen references, when I think back to those really dark days of COVID, it was so scary. And I remember I was the designated person in my family who basically put on a hazmat suit once a week to go get the groceries and come back and then sort of boil myself down. And yet our first responders were out there servicing calls. And so in our darkest days, our first responders were our light. And I don't forget that, and I really appreciate that from all of you. As I've spoken to some of you, like Tommy Bach, who talked about, he does the driving for, I think, 70% of the calls. He's not even an ambulance, as I understand. He's fire department, and he talked about just how much he gets back from volunteering for this community. He even said that sometimes when his wife gets him to go out to dinner, and they're in a dinner, and I know his wife Patty, and an ambulance lights on is going by, he's like, he'd rather be there helping service his community than, nothing against Patty, but I'm sure he wants to be out there helping. So I know you all have a special something that not everybody has, and I have a lot of gratitude for that. So as we've talked to the various, over the past few months, ambulance volunteers and police chiefs and fire chiefs and dispatch, we've sort of tried to make sense of what's going on. I think what's interesting is when you talk about the whole first response emergency situation, you start with dispatch, and I was fortunate to spend an afternoon in dispatch, and they're basically, for lack of a better word, like your concierge to your emergency situation. They're the ones who answer the call, and when someone calls them, it's either, you know, you're distraught, you're vulnerable, someone's sick, you're sick, someone's on fire, you're on fire, your house is on fire, you're a victim of a crime. And what resonated with me was that J.P. Foster said when they take the call at dispatch, the first thing they want to say, what they want most to say, is help is on the way. And when you are in that situation, that's what you most want to hear, help is on the way. And then when I spoke to Chief Mott, and I said, what do you want people to know when the ambulance comes? And she says, I want you to know that we'll take care of you. Help is on the way, and we'll take care of you. Those are really the most important things. I do wish the situation hadn't happened like this, and I do agree with Amanda that transition could have been handled better. And I'm very sorry that this was not handled better. Because what I see it now is the ordinance we're talking about today, this is not because we want paid employees. That's categorically false. We need our volunteers, we want our volunteers, and we need to do better to make you understand that. And this is not because we want to charge for ambulance. We actually have never had that discussion. We went to a meeting with all the other hamlets, but this is not something we've ever had a backdoor discussion. We don't want to charge for ambulance. That's also double dipping. Also, we don't want to not respond to mutual aid. Not only do we have a contract, but that's important to us. We're a community. And I feel disappointed that this situation has become so inflamed. And I do think that, you know, there's been a lot of emotions and we didn't hear each other. And I also think that the newspapers had a little bit of sort of inflaming the situation. But I want to say that, you know, what we're doing today is just basically making us responsible for what's happening. It's just really a fundamental structural change that all the chiefs, Tracy, everybody else thinks is the right decision. And I do think, though, I promise that as a board, we want to work with you and do better and hear you and show you how much we appreciate you. I don't want you ever to think that I certainly don't want you to think that I don't appreciate the work you do. And so I hope you'll continue with us, because I do think, and I want to say this to our residents, that what we want most of all is when you're having a problem, help is on the way and we'll take care of you. And this is just us trying to help that along. Thank you.
That's very good. It was very well said, Kerry, and I couldn't agree with you more. And we're not going to sit here and point fingers back and forth at each other saying who's at fault and who's not. We are where we are. We've had 2 public hearings on this now. There is not a volunteer in this room that has not been invited to stay on the ambulance. Nothing is going to change in the volunteer's life other than this law gives the chief of the ambulance the authority to make changes without having to go to the membership. That's really the bottom line. And it's like that in every organization. It's like that in the police departments. It's like that in every fire district. The fire chief makes decisions, and those decisions are implemented. This is nothing different. This is take private business.
This is volunteer, and you're talking about paid, so just keep that clear, please. Okay, big difference.
If you had your opportunity to speak, ma'am, so please have some respect for people who are talking.
Just couldn't hold it back.
Okay? So we are going to ask one more time. Anybody else on the board have anything to say?
Okay, I'll go. Can you hear me? I'm Sarah Amidon, and I echo everything that Kerry said. I'm going to read from what I wrote, and I just wanted to thank all the volunteers for all of your time and service. I know this has been a difficult time for many of you, and I'm sorry for any hurt this has caused you. It's unfortunate how communication was broken down on both sides, and I hope that moving forward this will improve. After meeting with many people outside of this administration, it is my sincere belief that the direction that the village is taking to create a structured chain of command is the right thing to do. The intention is not to have paid calls, but to provide caring, competent, and professional care for whoever calls 911. Taking all politics and emotions out of the situation, I believe a structured chain of command which defines roles and responsibility and is part of a response that includes fire and police will be the best way to support our community moving forward. We will still have our volunteers who we value and need, and they will be supported by paid with a 1-to-3 ratio. We need a hybrid of paid and volunteer people who are working together with a unified goal to serve our community. Where I stand as a village trustee, looking at the budget, the insurance, and the liability, I believe that we cannot have liability without responsibility. Thank you.
Yes, I want to say something. I just want to say that we do appreciate the volunteers, and we want you guys to stay with us. Moving forward, we all understand that the conversation needs to be had, and we do appreciate everything that you've done for us, and we're always going to take your opinion really to heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, hearing is closed. If anybody would like to leave now would be the time, because we're going to get into the other hearings. Otherwise, I'd ask you to stay so we can not have any noise. Lorraine, could you read the second hearing?
Introductory number 5, 2022, a proposed local law amending definitions, nonconforming buildings, and area setback and height regulations with respect to pickleball courts and tennis courts, Chapter 278, 1 and 3.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, council. My name is Elisabetta Cascignano. I'm with the law firm of Son Ward Braff Koblenz, PLLC, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Suite 601, Uniondale, New York. Here with me today I have my partner, John Ward, our associate, Megan Hassan, co-counsel, Steve Altman, on behalf of Michael and Barbara Bebon, who reside at 93 Main Street in the village of East Hampton. Barbara Bebon is with us today. Her husband could not be here as he had a pre-scheduled trip out of town. Initially, we'd like to speak on both 52022 and 52023 at once, if the board's okay with that.
I mean, if you could just, for the record, just talk about this one first, then I'll ask you to step back up and do the second one.
They're so related, the local law and the moratorium, it's very difficult to speak about them separately when it comes to my client's concerns. If the board's okay with it and they don't mind.
Is that okay with you?
I mean, you can. It might make more sense to also do it after you do the second moratorium.
Do you want to call the second one and then I'll speak on both?
You should do that. Can you move them up? Is that all right? Taking them out of order?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, do you want her to read it now, or do you want to wait until this one's closed?
She can read it now, or you can discuss this one, then she can read it right after, whatever makes the most sense.
I'll read it now, then we'll.
Yeah.
So we're going to move up number 5.
Introductory number 5, 2023, a proposed local law authorizing the moratorium on tennis court and pickleball court conversions, Chapter 10 of the Municipal Home Rule Law.
Thank you. Appreciate that courtesy. So, having acted as village council to many municipalities, I also frequently present before other municipal boards, and I'm a member of my own village's zoning board, so I can appreciate the difficulties boards have when they're trying to do the best job possible for their residents and the entire village. Let me be clear on this. The Bebons are fully supportive of the moratorium against the construction and/or conversion of the pickleball courts on residential properties. However, every step a legislative body such as this one takes towards amendments or additions to their local laws must be done with careful measure and transparency and in accordance with the village's comprehensive plan. We agree with the village's proposals that there must be data collected by the village by consultants to examine the noise concerns that are also a community concern that has been recognized by the village. Without studying, the effects of this particular game, which emanates these noise by a professional acoustical engineer, and having those reports, we cannot really make an analysis, and the village can't make an analysis and determination as to whether this sport should be permitted on residential properties, and if permitted, what are the appropriate sound mitigation measures that would protect the neighbors' right to quiet use and enjoyment of their property. The village already has an extensive noise ordinance in section 196.1, which Megan will hand up now. And this limits acts that are declared to be loud, disturbing, and unnecessary noises, and enumerates those acts therein, but specifically states that said enumeration is not deemed to be exclusive. And by way of example, if you look at your noise ordinance, it prohibits yelling, shouting, hooting, or singing even on the public streets or in a vehicle or dwelling or any commercial establishment between the hours of 11 and 7 p.m., 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., and at any other time which would annoy or disturb the quiet, comfort, or repose of a person in any office, dwelling, or residence. And that's a violation of the ordinance. So surely if this extensive noise ordinance prohibits these things, then the constant, loud, persistent noise of this game adjacent to your property would be prohibited by this ordinance. And the village may want to consider that once they go through, their consideration of these laws and the moratorium. So our request on behalf of the B-Bonds today is to extend the moratorium and local law not only to residential properties, but any property in a residential zone or in a residential or commercial zone that abuts a residential property, including and specifically Herrick Park. Mr. and Mrs. B-Bond reside directly adjacent to Herrick Park, which is located in the R4 zoning district, and the park, by way of history, is a non-conforming use in a residential zone. They are the most affected neighbor of the park and all of its uses, including the previously approved plans, which include pickleball courts without sound attenuation measures. Let me state today for the record on behalf of the B-Bonds, they do not oppose any of the improvements that are currently being done at the park. The restructuring of the tennis courts, softball, the playgrounds, they're in favor of all of this. But they do oppose the construction or conversion of any playing courts that have the purpose of engaging in the game of pickleball. Did you hand up the GPS view? If you see the GPS view, you can see where the B-Bonds reside, and their property is connected to the park and very, very close to where the new tennis courts and the approved plans for pickleball courts would be put in. They're a stone's throw away from this area. Mrs. B-Bond is going to speak on her own behalf today, but the board should know that they have owned their home for over 17 years. Mrs. B-Bond grew up visiting the Hamptons her entire youth, and when married, her and her husband always desired a home here. They searched for many years and finally have found a home in this beautiful village. They spent summers and weekends here, and their children played in this park that we speak of today, and they have made 93 Main Street their permanent home now where they reside. They have always enjoyed living next to this park, which for decades has been used as a sports facility and playground for the school and for the entire community and its visitors. They are excited about all of the improvements. They knew of the reconstruction of the park and they would not object to same. However, they did not know that pickleball was being planned on the tennis courts for the community with absolutely no sound attenuation measures steps from their backyard. Once they learned of this, they immediately objected after doing a bit of research into the persistent, loud, and irritating and annoying sound that it would make daily by many people, not just one family. These sounds emanating from this game are well documented by experts in the field. In fact, they had no idea about this game, and about a year ago, their next-door neighbor asked for a letter of consent to submit to one of the village balls so that they could install a pickleball court in their backyard. And of course, they're neighborly people. They said, sure, you can have our consent. They had no idea what pickleball was. They figured it was like tennis. Once they learned about it, they called their neighbor and they inquired, and because they were concerned. The neighbor assured them that he would use the court very infrequently, and should they ever have company or are disturbed, he would immediately cease playing. They came to that agreement. They're very friendly with their neighbors. In fact, to this day, the use of the court has been extremely limited. This is a far cry from a public installation of a court that has the potential to be used from morning until night and with multiple courts. Just the thought of residing next to the persistent pounding noise of this game is unbearable and would certainly end their quiet enjoyment and use of their property. In taking this game and its use into consideration when legislating, we believe the board has to comply with its own comprehensive plan and draft generic environmental impact statement, which was adopted by this village in February of 2002. Megan's handing up copies of that statement now. In 2001 and 2002, the board, the zoning board, the planning board, the board of trustees, and design review board worked together with the Citizens Advisory Committee and outside consultants to adopt a comprehensive plan, which you all have a copy of right now. This plan is the backbone for all local zoning laws. The power to zone and regulate such zoning is based on an understanding of the municipality's comprehensive plan. In 2001, the Citizens Advisory Committee and the boards of the village worked together with outside consultants to establish the vision for this village and its future and recommendations to implement the vision once the official comprehensive plan was adopted. It should also be noted that a draft generic environmental impact statement was adopted in accordance with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. This is a necessary step when any action is taken by the village when it relates to zoning and land use, and specifically as it relates to village property. I don't want to stray too far from the subject, but we think it's important for the board to understand the impact of legislation that is being proposed concerning the game of pickleball and whether it belongs on the residential properties or any properties located within a residential zone, and whether it's in accordance with the village's comprehensive plan. Once a village or municipal entity establishes a comprehensive plan, it becomes their handbook for any and all legislative changes. The board must ask itself, does this legislation we are considering today comport with the vision and recommendations in the comprehensive plan? So to that end, the board can see all of the determining factors that went into the adoption of this plan, and something important to note is that one of the recommendations in the plan was that 10 years after it was adopted, it should have been revisited to see if any changes were made, and it also indicates that after 20 years, which is approximately now, a new comprehensive plan should be undertaken, which would require a new draft generic environmental impact statement pursuant to CEQA. And that process takes several years. You have to hire outside consultants. It does take a long time. It does not appear that that has been done here, and so the only comprehensive plan that we had to look at was the one that currently exists. To that note, the plan states, if you read it, that the principal theme of the vision of the Village of East Hampton is and shall remain a residential community with extraordinary natural beauty, historic integrity, and special charm. The village is committed to and will remain vigilant in preserving and protecting the character, heritage, and quality of life here in the community. To that end, Herrick Park has been historically used by youth and adult sports teams, the school district, families and children who enjoy playing on the playground, playing tennis or basketball, or walking through and sitting in the park. Megan's going to hand up the deed from 1976, where the neighborhood association conveyed the deed to the village. That deed contains a limitation on its use and a reversionary interest. And what that means is that it can revert back to the previous conveyor, grantor, or such other person or entity. The deed states that it is the subject to the limitation of estate and possibility of reverter as follows: provided that this estate shall remain vested in the Village of East Hampton for so long as said village maintains the above described Herrick Park playground for the purposes for which grantor incorporated and acquired said playground, namely mental benefit, social intercourse, and recreation in the village and the town of East Hampton. Should the fulfillment of these purposes cease, this estate shall cease and terminate, and a group of residents at the Village of East Hampton may reincorporate for said purposes and pursue the same as did the East Hampton Neighborhood Association. So we feel that the improvements are being made. Yes, they're in accord with the deed. We don't feel that pickleball is in accord with the uses that were contemplated, let's say, in 1976. The construction of a... Now, let's also discuss, on behalf of our clients, they were told by several village officials that there would be a construction of a permanent concert band shell and an ice skating rink at this park. We also believe that those are not contemplated as uses according to the deed restrictions, and they would be subject to the cessation of the estate and reverter to another neighborhood association if formed. So if you familiarize yourself with the entirety of the comprehensive plan, you'll note that extensive studies were conducted and findings and recommendations set forth regarding the village's population, land use, housing and zoning, village neighborhoods, the village commercial and manufacturing uses, natural environment, the village's heritage, the village's transportation system, and their facilities and services. Specific to our request today, the plan addresses two important items which we feel are relevant to the proposed resolutions and the concerns of our clients. Section 5 of the comprehensive plan on page 114 discusses preserving the village's neighborhoods. In this section of the plan, the goal is to preserve and protect the existing character and quality of life in each of the village's diverse neighborhoods. One of the objectives is listed as non-residential uses within and adjacent to residential neighborhoods. So the objective
I'm going to have to ask you to start to wrap this up if you could.
Well, I do have others with me. This will only take a few more minutes.
Okay.
And they're not all speaking.
Okay.
So we're
I'll
going to
give
be
you-
limited. We're
if
going to be
you
limited
could,
to
just-
me. I will wrap it up as soon as I can.
Thank you.
Okay. So they did look at non-residential uses within and adjacent to residential neighborhoods, which we feel that the Herrick Park is a non-residential use that is connected to our client's property, and it is a pre-existing non-conforming use in a residential zone. Actions recommended by this plan for those uses that are adjacent to residential neighborhoods are prohibiting the installation of lights on non-residential properties that adversely impact those properties, prohibit uses and activities that impinge on adjacent residential properties, and enforced existing noise regulations consistent with the code, and requiring landscape buffers between those non-residential and residential uses. It also recommends for action in mitigating any adverse impacts created by non-residential uses and pre-existing non-conforming uses on those properties. So you understand what we're saying here? We're saying that the village's comprehensive plan states that whenever contemplating any use on a non-conforming property that is located within a residential zone and adjacent to a residence, you have to abide by these uses, these recommendations, and these adopted regulations. So to that end, pickleball, if you look all around the country, there are all kinds of lawsuits regarding the noise and sound. So why not apply your moratorium and your local law to this property as well, as it is in a residential zone, and it will adversely affect my client. And she will be the one that's most adversely affected by this. She really is the closest property near the tennis courts. Now, again, we haven't seen any approved or stamped plans. We don't know, what the latest stamped plan is. We have seen plans that are approved that have pickleball on them. We have seen a contract with Land Tech that has pickleball on it to be placed, painted over the tennis courts, but we haven't seen an amended contract with Land Tech, and we haven't seen an amended plan that is stamped and approved by the village. So if you're telling me today that exists and that's what we're doing, and then that's fine, but we haven't seen any of that yet. So, and in speaking about the future of the park,
Well, we're talking about these two proposals today, so
Right.
circle back to that if you would, please.
Yeah, sure. So back to the proposals today, and what we feel is that we feel that the uses that are being contemplated by the village in terms of pickleball and the moratoriums and the local law that are being put forth today really should be amended to include Herrick Park and any village property that is adjacent to a residential property. And those neighbors are affected by these items as well as residential neighbors. And actually, if you're living next to a park and pickleball is being proposed at that park, you're more adversely affected than any other residential neighbor. 1 court versus 4 all day long, 7 days a week, is really something that's going to adversely affect my client.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask her to come up.
Let me just say that Very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Very well done. But we did, at our last board meeting, pass a resolution with the new plan, which does not have pickleball, because we took Mr. Bebon's comments when I personally met with him. I took them into consideration, and we took that out of the current plan that we have, and we passed a resolution at the last meeting. And I know you either are getting that information or will have that information soon.
Should also be publicly available on the website.
Yeah.
By the way.
I'm sorry, we did look for it on the website, but it's not there. Otherwise, I would have told you.
Well, by the way, there is pending litigation on this matter brought by the Bebons, so our comments are limited to the subject matter.
Well, that was a public.
Yes.
Yeah, we did that at a public
Yes.
meeting.
No,
Understood.
yes, that's absolutely true.
Understood.
We approved the new plan, which removed the markings of pickleball on that court. So, and there are no other plans in the process about any other pickleball.
As
So-
was previously indicated to everyone, that was the plan.
Understood, but the only documentary evidence that we had in our possession, what was on the village website, were approvals for pickleball court. I know I saw a revised plan being approved at the last meeting,
Right.
but there's no documents on the village website that shows what the resolution is, what the plan is. And we were also hoping that the contract would be amended to remove, because in the initial contract, there's a plan with pickleball courts, and there's also specs for Land Tech to paint those lines.
Yeah, I believe that was removed in the contract as well.
And so if it is now?
Yes.
Where?
That's, yes.
Under work session? Because we looked for it and we couldn't.
It was a special meeting.
Yeah, we saw the agenda.
All the documents should be on the website.
Yeah. But they're not, right? Because we checked it last night and this morning, so maybe something's up with that. So, we'll check again, but if not, I would ask permission to, call the village and obtain those documents.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
That would be great. And just as a quick statement, they would like, if there are other plans for the park, communicate with them. They're the most affected neighbor. If in the future you are planning to build anything.
We've had public meetings about this. We've had board meetings about it. So it's all here. It's on LTV. And I mean,
I know some people don't follow all the
Right.
time. So,
Well-
but when you do have an affected neighbor, as myself, I'm a municipal land use lawyer. Whenever I represent a client, if I always say to them, "Who's your neighbor? Have you talked to them?"
Right.
Because it's important that the neighbor. And this is a really tiny village. It's not like New York City. It's so easy to just say, you know what, call up the Bebons and see, let them know we're planning to do a concert or we're planning to build a temporary skating rink. If those plans do happen to come to fruition, I know there's no plan for that now.
And I did tell your client that he would be included in any future discussions, but apparently
again,
that didn't work too
I'm
well.
just going to remind that there is pending litigation brought
Yeah.
by the Bebons on
All
this.
right.
So we're going to limit our comments regarding that, and that's
Okay.
my statement.
So we're good.
Thank you. At this time, Mrs. Bebon, though, she would like to speak.
Great. Good morning.
Afternoon. Is it morning or
Afternoon.
afternoon? Well, thank you for having this meeting, everyone. And I'm actually thrilled to hear you say that there is not going to be any pickleball, at least in this phase of the park development. I just want to say that we have lived here, for a long time, and the preservation of the park is really important to us and to our family. The community of East Hampton itself, we treasure it. It's beautiful, it's historic, and it has a lot of special charm. And we fully support the renovation, the tennis courts, the softball facilities. I could see it today. They were ripping everything out. They've been doing it for over a month now. And we purchased that house almost 18 years ago. And we share our driveway with the Ladies Village Improvement Society, and I'm sure you all know what that is, and with our next door neighbor. I started coming to the Hamptons when I was a baby. My parents brought us out here every single year, but we would go in the fall when the crowds were gone. And every windmill that we passed was a signpost that we were getting closer to the Hamptons. And when we were older, we rented. And I met my husband here, and we rented every summer, and we said, we have to buy a house here. And we looked at over 100 houses, as my broker pointed out. And nothing was right. It was either too new or too big or too small or too far away. And then we found our house, and it was just right for us. Our house is over 100 years old. It was originally part of the Gardner estate, so it has a lot of history to it, and we liked that part of the historic charm of the village. So, you know, as our children grew and we used the park all the time, we were able to see how many people enjoy this park and the ways in which they enjoy it. Obviously, the children play sports there, which is lovely, and children are on the playground. There's infants and toddlers and mothers with babies, and it's very quiet and peaceful, and we appreciate that. But if you were to reconsider and put these pickleball courts on at any phase, it would completely destroy not only our quality of life, but really many of the people who actually use the park to relax and have quiet time and sit and be peaceful, or even just walk through the park. And the same goes for any kind of concert stage or skating rink. So, you know, we just strongly feel that the village itself should adhere to whatever moratoriums and restrictions that it places on its residents and their building and constructing of pickleball courts, and please, you know, refrain from doing so for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do want to just say one thing. You know, we have been very thoughtful about the consideration of the neighbors, because prior to even meeting you or your husband or becoming involved in this litigation, as we looked at the park, our goal was to move, and we've done it, is move the double basketball court away from your property line, which was about 10 feet from your house. And that has been taken out, and that's not going to be reinstalled in that area, because we felt that was a noisy, you know, a noisy structure for neighbors. So we moved that to another part of the park, which we haven't even figured out yet. So that part is still in consideration. We don't know what we're doing with phase 2, if you will. So we'll include the public when we figure it out.
Well, I appreciate the thought that you gave to the basketball courts, although it's confusing to me that then there was a plan to have pickleball courts on top of the tennis courts, which is even noisier than basketball.
Right, which is not the current plan as discussed before.
Correct.
Okay. I think that was the original plan that we heard about or
Regardless.
saw. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Again, we're just trying to make improvements to the park that, for the entire community, and we'll be thoughtful as we do it. But our goal is to make it a community park, which is the way it used to be and the way it was deeded to the public. So, but thank you all for your comments. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, no, I just want to say about the park, you know, there's tremendous disparity in our village. A lot of people have pools and tennis courts and things like that, but the park is really the heartbeat for the community, the middle school, our school children, and this is our place to allow them to have some of the same opportunities that other people in our community have. So our efforts are trying to make it a great park. We have cracked tennis courts where our middle school plays, and there's no reason this should happen. We're doing improvements to the park, and I think it's going to be, I think people will be really excited about it.
Motion to close? So moved.
Can I get a motion to close the hearing?
Second.
That's on both proposed laws.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do the vote
Both hearings are closed. So, all right, next, Lorraine?
Introductory number 1, 2023, a proposed local law amending coastal erosion hazard areas, Chapter 101, 22, expiration of variances.
Anyone from the public? Billy, did you want to say anything about this, or? No? Okay. Can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, hearing is closed. Next, Lorraine?
Introductory number 6, 2023, a proposed local law amending beach parking permits. Half-season parking permits shall be issued rather than monthly parking permits, Chapter 267, 5C4.
Anyone from the public? Can you wait till you get to the podium, please?
I'm attempting to understand the overall rationale for having a pass which lasts for 45 days for the first part and 65 days for the next part. Because the first one goes from May 1st to the end of July, and the second one goes from August 1st through October 15th. All right, you're charging $750. Has the village carefully looked at the amount of labor it is to basically maintain that at the beaches, at the parking lots, cleaning, I'm sure the beach hut will be open. But the question is, do we really need this? And it's just kind of absurd. And those are my comments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All right. Can I get a motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, hearing's closed. Is this microphone dead? Is this one working? There we go. All right, so I think that concludes the public hearings, correct? All right, is there any public comment about anything else? Other than what we've already spoken about? Wonderful.
No, I'm sure you're ecstatic about it. I'd like to ask two questions. One is the $1 million Tesla Stadium on Osborne Lane. All right, there was an agreement with, I believe, Volkswagen of America to install electrified, I think it was Electrify America EV stations, and they were going to be paying us $9,600 a year. And as Marco said in the press, this will help chip away at what we paid for the land, which was $1 million. And that's about a 103-year payout. So what has happened to the Volkswagen Electrify America EV stations, which I'm at a loss for? You don't have, I guess I'll have its comments, so you don't have to answer that question. But hopefully the East Hampton Star basically picked this up and asked that same question. The second question, well, it's not a question, but it has to be a comment.
Second comment.
Is I sent you a note, I was in Europe in September, that I noticed you posted.
Sent me a what?
I noticed you posted a picture, or excuse me, Sea Hut, or Beach Hut, posted a picture of your 18th birthday. Excuse me.
My 18th?
August
wow,
18th.
it was a while ago.
I know. It was a long time ago. August 18th, you had a banquet at the Beach Hut. And I'd like to know, given you are a public officer, who paid for that?
It was a private event. It's none of your business.
Well,
How's that for an answer?
It is.
Yeah. Well,
it is.
Then foil my wife.
I did. No, foil your wife? No, I'm going to foil you.
All right, we're done.
Right?
What do you got left?
That's it. But,
All right.
Listen,
Thank you.
If you're a party of 25 people paid by the village or whoever, it's not cool. And it's against the public officers
I
law.
go to restaurants in the village too, my friend. Do you want my bills for there too?
If you
Sit
spend
down.
more than $25, yes.
All right. Does anybody else have a comment? Great. All right, so we're going to move into resolutions.
Okay. Resolution 416, 2023, approve claim vouchers for the month of March.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
417, approve warrants as listed. General Fund, number 47, 50, 51. Guarantees, number 46. LoSAP, number 49. And Capital Fund, number 52.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution 418, approve budget transfer schedule number 6, reference 6, dated April 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
419, approve departmental reports.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution number 420, approve promotion of Lieutenant Jeffrey Erickson to the rank of captain at an annual salary of $197,093.06, effective May 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried, and congratulations to Jeff.
Number 421, approve promotion of Sergeant Jack Bartlemy to the rank of lieutenant at an annual salary of $182,493.56, effective May 1st, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution number 422, approve promotion of police officer Matthew Kachanis to the rank of sergeant at an annual salary of $164,408.62, effective May 1st.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 423, approve promotion of police officer Wayne Gogger to the rank of sergeant at an annual salary of $164,408.62, effective May 1st.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 424, approve employment of Brandon Esposito as a full-time police officer at an annual salary of $60,217.95, effective May 1st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 425, approve the memorandum of agreement between East Hampton Village and the East Hampton Village Police Benevolent Association.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 426, accept the retirement of Police Sergeant Matthew Morgan, effective April 22nd, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. I want to thank Matt. I was actually the chief who promoted him at the time, and he's a fine officer and turned out to be a great sergeant, and I wish him a lot of luck in retirement.
Resolution number 427, accept the donation of a memorial bench in the memory of John Diamond, donated by James and Olivia Brooks, Maddie and Richard Lawler, Connie and Steve Thomas, Deborah and Alex Walter, Pamela and Ed McDonald, Jackie and John Gehring, and H.K. Anderson.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passed and carried, and thank you for that donation. John was a wonderful man, and we're glad to have that in addition to all of our other benches that are out there, so thank you for that wonderful donation.
Resolution number 428, concerning erroneous real estate taxes paid and refund in the amount of $434.40 due to Jack and Ruth Ann McSpadden to Representatives Aventine Properties, LLC, regarding Suffolk County Tax Map 3019.119.3.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 429, employed Jonda Stillwell, $20 an hour, and Francine Hanford, $18 an hour, both as 2023 seasonal tour guides at Home Sweet Home, effective May 15th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 430, approve enrollment for 2 police officers to attend the 37th Annual Police Security Expo 2023 at a cost of approximately $660 to be held on June 27th and 28th at the Atlantic City, New Jersey Convention Center, training budget A312046.
Second.
Passed and carried.
Aye.
Number 431, approve the annual maintenance service agreement with IPS Group for the LPR mobile data readers at the cost of $9,200, effective February 1st, 2023 to January 31st, 2024.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 432, approve the $27,000, 415.53 quote to purchase radio and related equipment from Motorola for the ESU team and the communications van.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 433, approve the $8,401.66 quote from Howard Technology Solutions for dispatch monitors for the camera system.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 434, approve the $19,000, 173.96 quote from A-Plus Technology and Security Solutions Incorporated for Verkada 1-year camera license effective April 28th to April 28th, 2023 to April 27th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 435, approve the $35,800 quote from Laser Industries for replacement of the shop floor in Bay 2 as per April 12th memo from Dave Collins.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 436, approve the $18,495 quote from Brentwood Doors for replacement of 2 central garage bay doors.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 437, approve the $15,060.59 quote from Bortec for one factory cap floor scrubber with spare wear parts, chemicals, and delivery for the Emergency Services Building.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 438, approve proposal from Ken Russell Incorporated for the installation of a 3,000-gallon trash tank for the Herrick Park restroom
So moved.
IA system at a cost of $15,000.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 439, approve the $8,540.06 quote from Polyjohn Enterprises for 4 standard portable restrooms, 1 ADA portable restroom, and 1 portable sink.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution number 440, approve King Street and Sherrill Road paving improvements by Rosemar at a cost of $118,119.05.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 441, approve the purchase of one 2022 Ram 4x2 pickup with cap, ladder rack, and accessories at a listed cost of $38,403.26.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number
Passed and carried. You need a break, Lorraine?
No. It's hot up here, these lights. Number 442, approve $3 hourly wage increase to $35 an hour for part-time Mason Fernie Londano, effective May 1st, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 443, employ 2023 seasonal beach employees as listed per April 1st, 10th, and 18th memos from Drew Smith.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Approve $9,326.34 quote from Motorola Solutions for APX 8000 XE radio for the ambulance department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 445, approve payment for new fire apparatus 913, 915, and 917 as per resolution number 66, 2022, approved April 22nd of 22, and April 12th memo from Ken Cullum.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Kenny, would you mind just updating the board on what that is, so everybody's up to speed? It's a very important issue, so.
Good morning, board members. This is the payment for the 3 apparatus which we currently are in receipt of, which is 913 Hose Company, 915 Engine Company, and 917 the Rescue Company. Those vehicles are currently, one is at our firehouse and the other ones are currently at Firematic being outfitted for us. And we need to get those paid and then they get turned over to us fairly quickly now.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 446, approve the 2023 Northwest Fire Protection District Fire Protection Agreement between the Town of East Hampton and the Village of East Hampton, effective the first day of January 2023 for a period of 1 year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 447, approve the 2023 East Hampton Water Supply District Fire Protection Agreement between the Town of East Hampton and the Village of East Hampton, effective the first day of January 2023 for a period of 1 year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 448, resolved the 2022-2023 village budget is hereby amended to increase estimate revenue and appropriations in the amount of $859,587 for expenditures related to the fire protection services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 449, accept the $19,600 quote from DataWorks Plus LLC for RICI live scan and mugshot system replacement.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 450, create the position of custodian 2.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 451, approve promotion of Tyler Pond to custodian 2 at $60,000 annually, effective May 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 452, employ Katrina L. Abram Miller as a full-time custodian 1, effective May 1st, 2023, at a base annual salary of $55,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 453, approve Omnia Partners Cooperative Purchasing Contract with the lead agency of Prince William County Public Schools, Virginia.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 454, approve enrollment in the purchasing co-op TIPS.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 455, approve the $9,388.62 quote from Dream Seat for office furniture chairs.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 456, approve the $3,311.92 quote from WB Mason for office furniture tables.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 457, approve the $16,186.26 quote from CDW for video conferencing equipment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Approve number 458, approve the $5,027.44 quote from Lincoln IT for 3 computers for the Emergency Operations Center.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 459, approve the $174,481.47 quote from Techno Gym for gym equipment on state contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 460, approve the $16,000 quote from Rutledge Floors for new gym flooring.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 461, approve the $3,600 quote from Robert Hefner for drafting of plans for the windmill arms.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 462, approve the $18,500 quote from MCD Finishes Incorporated for the Main Beach Pavilion painting project.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 463, accept East Hampton Village Foundation donation of $59,751.46 for Herrick Park Phase 1A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Yeah, I was going to say, there's, as the Land Tech did some work out there, they found that we actually had 3 levels of tennis courts that all had to be removed, and no one knew that there were 3 levels of tennis court. So it was a lot of extra trucking involved. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Resolution number 464, approve change order number 1 for the Herrick Park Phase 1A renovation project from Land Tech in the amount of $34,664.11.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 465, approve change order number 2 for the Herrick Park Phase 1A renovation project from Land Tech in the amount of $5,211.39.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 466, approve change order number 3 for Herrick Park Phase 1A renovation project from Land Tech in the amount of $19,875.96.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 467, approve the $2,032.58 quote from Cardiac Life for AED rescue pack for the public meeting room at the Emergency Services Building.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 468, approve the replacement of the Morning Pride turnout gear for all firefighters whose gear was produced before 2019 at a cost of $150,306.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried, and I'd just like our fire marshal just to update the public, really, on what this was about. This was the one I was thinking the last one was. This is a very important issue that affects lives of firefighters, so I think it's important that you talk about it.
Yes, good morning, board members. It came to the village's attention back in February that turnout gear that was produced prior to 2019 contains PFAS in it, which is now a big hot button topic with chemicals in our waters. It's used for abrasion resistance and water repelling in our gear. The village board, not wasting any time, quickly acted to measure our firefighters and replace that gear, which we've currently done and are in the process of doing. The new gear does not have any PFAS in the outer structural gear or the thermal layer. However, the Teflon that is in the moisture barrier, which is not the PFAS related, is for bloodborne pathogens and chemical resistance. So the village has basically stepped up and bought the best gear possible for our volunteer fire service, and we'd like to thank you for that as well. But that's where we're at, and this will bring everybody up to speed and get them out of gear that has chemicals that could cause cancer.
That's terrific. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Lori?
Resolution number 469, approve the proposal from Commercial Instrumentation Services for the replacement of air conditioning condensers numbered 2 and 3 at the Emergency Services Building at a cost of $50,454.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 470, approve 2023 agreement between the East Hampton Union Free School District and the Village of East Hampton for the placement of 2 village police officers as school resource officers within the school district to be reviewed on an annual basis.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. That's something that we've been doing for the last few years, where the school district pays for 10 months of salary and benefits for police officers that are assigned to the school. So it's a very good program.
Resolution number 471, notice of public hearing to be held on May 19th, 2023 at 11 a.m. at LTV Studios, 75 Industrial Road, Wainscott, for introductory number 7, 2023, a proposed local law authorizing a property tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution number 472, notice of public hearing to be held on May 19th, 2023 at 11 a.m. at LTV Studios, 75 Industrial Road, Wainscott, for introductory number 8, 2023, a proposed local law amending property maintenance and nuisance abatement, Section 225-5C2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution number 473, adopt local law of 2023, introductory number 5, 2022, a proposed local law authorizing the moratorium on tennis court and pickleball court conversions, Chapter 10 of the Municipal Home Rule Law.
Second.
All in favor? Passed and carried.
Resolution number 473A, 2023, adopt negative secret declarations with respect to introductory number 5 of 2023.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 474, adopt local law number 6 of 2023, introductory number 5, 2023, a proposed local law amending definitions, nonconforming buildings and area, setback and height regulations with respect to pickleball courts and tennis courts, Chapter 278, 1 and 3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 475, adopt local law number 7 of 2023, introductory number 6, 2023, a proposed local law amending beach parking permits, half-season parking permits shall be issued rather than monthly parking permits, Chapter 267-5, C4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution number 475A, 2023, adopt negative secret declarations with respect to introductory number 1 of 2023.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution number 476, adopt local law number 8 of 2023, introductory number 1 of 2023, amending coastal erosion hazard areas, Chapter 101-22, expiration of variances.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 477, adopt local law number 9 of 2023, introductory number 3 of 2023, amending Village of East Hampton Code by adding Chapter 38, establishing a Department of Emergency Medical Service, EMS, as a Department of Village Government.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 478, approve 2 part-time laborers for the Department of Public Works, Nelson Garcia and Jose Espinal, at $35 per hour, effective April 24th, 2021.
So moved.
I'm
All in
sorry,
favor? Passed and carried.
2023.
Okay. We passed it.
Number 479, accept the following resignations from Village of East Hampton as per diem paramedics: Marcia O'Neill, effective March 11th, 2023, and Bruce Zumo, effective March 15th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 480, accept resignations from the East Hampton Village Ambulance Association as per April 20th memo from Chief Mott.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution number 481, accept status change to exempt from the East Hampton Village Ambulance Association as per April 20th memo from Chief Mott.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 482, create the Department of Emergency Medical Service, EMS, as a department of village government.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 483, accept new volunteer members of the Department of Emergency Medical Service, EMS, as per April 20th memo from Chief Mott.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Just want to make a comment. We had 12 people resign because they're unhappy about the change, and we now have 61 that we've just moved into the department. So that's, I think we have, Mary, how many volunteers remained after the 21? Right, plus we brought in another 10 volunteers, new volunteers, and then we have 21 paid people, a mixture of full-time and per diems. So we're on the track to getting back. So thank you, Mary.
Resolution 484, approve part-time and full-time employees with the Department of Emergency Medical Service, EMS, as per April 20th memo from Chief Mott.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 485, approve the following individuals as employees with the village's EMTB program at the hourly rate of $25 an hour, effective retroactively to April 7th, 2023, pending completion of background checks: Nathaniel DePasquale, Derek Sweetster, and Nicholas Carlisle LeMorocco.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution 486, approve Dan Batego as a full-time EMTB at a starting salary of $58,240, effective May 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 487, appoint individuals to leadership positions with the Department of Emergency Medical Service, EMS, as per April 20th memo from Chief Mott.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 488, approve appointment of Dr. Ralph Gibson, MD, as the medical physician with the Department of Emergency Medical Service, EMS.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Are there any add-ons, Lorraine?
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing, meeting's closed. Thank you all for coming.
Oh, he needs to announce.
Thank you all for sitting through all of this.
Mayor, you need to announce about executive session.
Oh, wait. No, we don't have executive.
Oh, okay.
There's none.
Okay.
Are you kidding me?